A week ago we had record high temps. Now we're headed for record low temps. And possibly even some talk of frost. Generally speaking, our weather's been damp, but not excessively wet, but very cold. Then we went to some above normal temps, which actually set records, and now we're actually going the other way to set records on the low end. It's kind of been a crappy year, weather-wise, as well as many other things that we're going to talk about later in this video here. But one good thing that did come to light here, as of recent, we got confirmation that our Tempty trailer will be getting built September 9th. We knew it would be in September. It is September 9th. We'll probably be looking at getting that around October. Time to get it built, time to get it out. It'll be late September. But I got the T880 there. I put the T800 back on the Wilson. And quite excited about being able to get the second trailer, which will help immensely in our grain hauling, which we've been aiming for quite a while here. So, good news there. Generally speaking, on our farm, we are no-till. So out of 1,000 acres, there might be 200 of it tilled. That would be the proportion used throughout the total acres of the operation. And when we do till that 200 acres, we need to get it done quick, because really it's myself and my father, who's not exactly a young kid anymore. Right now we're no-tilling soybeans. This is the 1795 Exact Emerge. Yeah, and I still run a marker. I also am running it on a auto track, but I still run a marker. And sometimes I run a marker and not the auto track, because again, the hills like this, you'll go around the intake or something, it'll keep that bump all the way out, and I can smooth things out manually. I was asked in the comments about no-tilling continuously, and really you do have to kind of farm to farm the same way, because of just the layout of the ground. But it doesn't really, I mean, there's no problem with it. It keeps everything in a directional way. You can also see the ground this year is very tilled. Looks pretty good. Everything's nice and going in really good. Largely in part due to the chopping corn head rolls, which I'm going to talk about here. If you guys have been following the channel along, last fall I showed the corn heads, the chopping rolls from John Deere, and the opposed rolls, which are a knife and a knife that meet up like this. Then when they rotate, they shear. And when they shear, they give a nice clipping effect to the stock. So right here was the opposed, and right here is where we ran the chopping. Now if you look out in there, big difference, chopping, opposed. And now it's springtime. You can see where the chopping went. You can see the black dirt, how this is really decomposed. And you come over here to the opposed roll, and it's a thick mat. And you kick that heavy crap out of the way. Just, you know, chunks are big. And anyway, you can see the mud, pretty wet. Anyway, and over here it's much drier. So after seeing this and seeing the way the field looks good. When it's sheared off, it looks good. But seeing the field here now, I'm convinced the chopping rolls are the way to go. This right here, camera doesn't do it justice. Foot deep stair steps, goes right up the hill. Intake. This is our home place farm. We got it right here behind our shop right there, Grain Leg, Morton Building. We got a contour terrace, and a bench style terrace, and the upper ones line up, these others don't. This was pasture, neighboring ground, other fields at one time, and I don't even think it was ever even done right beyond that fact. We got poor spacing, and it's just kind of a mess. And this is going to beans right here. This weeds were sprayed. We've been very wet and very windy, and our burn down was a little bit behind, but this will clean right up. Now, as far as what we're doing here, I'm laying out, and you can see some flags. Well, you probably can't see them, but there's flags up there. Then this ground will go up over the hill, and it actually gets pretty steep pretty fast. And then right below us here, we have an alfalfa field, and I'm seriously considering getting out of the hay markets entirely. You can see the flags and how it lines up with the other field there, which originally was a neighbor farm, but we've owned everything now. So this will be a much better layout in the future, control our erosion much better, allow us to ultimately get rid of the hay ground, to get out of the hay industry altogether, go into a farmable section of land, and we can do it without bouncing the ruts. And a prime example of what we're trying to clean up, and you can see this terrace here will actually come up around about to where that dam there is, and actually come back around the hillside and go out towards the wood line way out there. And the upper one, which is where this dam should have been in the first place, I'll zoom in on the flags. You can see double flag there would be your top terrace. Will cut the water off, and this is where it gets steep, but this is also where you're going to get your most advantages out of your erosion control, which is what I'm laying out right now. And here's a hilltop looking down view on what we did. We got the new terrace coming around here, following my finger, and we got going across, and you can see where we've run the new main, which this was always wet, and we always had problems. We got an all new main running up through here, up towards the barn, clear up there. We've run a terrace extension to cut the water off going down. And we've cleaned this mess up, again, much drier. This is about 50 to 60 acres in this area that now is being controlled and in proper letdown structures and proper outletting structures. Much drier, much cleaner, and way easier to farm. And all the other projects we did last fall are equally just as good. So we're going to continue this pattern and theme on our farm and keep improving it. I thoroughly do enjoy putting up hay and being in the hay business. However, it is a business and it has to be profitable. And so far, I haven't really seen the profit margins that I would like to see, which is why I'm really reconsidering things. Some years it's equally just as profitable as row crop, but does require an entire second line of equipment as well as finding buyers, whereas there are many places to go with grain and you get a much quicker check. All too often we've found people that want to buy hay but then not pay you. So getting out of the hay industry is probably going to happen. It's just going to depend upon a couple things that I have in the works currently. And if I do get out of it, I'm going to actually buy back another baler and another rake. I will keep our 285 disc mower so we can mow roadsides and stuff like that. But when I do buy it back, it's going to be a very cheap line of equipment, probably under $8,000 of investment, just for some 4-H cows and horses. As I've explained in many videos before, in 2018 I transitioned back to farming following my father's accident, which he has recovered from since. Again, I've always farmed, but took a somewhat of a hiatus and then transitioned back after 2018. And since that time, I've learned a lot. That's not to say that we didn't know things or I didn't know things about farming prior to. It's just that the things that I've learned since that time frame are going to be pivotal to our operation going forward. And those are things that will boost income and carry our operation in the next years. The highest yields don't always mean the most income. What I'm trying to do on our operations, gain yield, but at no more cost. And yes, you may have a little more cost, in a sense, as long as you have a positive return on investment. Again, it's a business, and a business has to make money. And things as you saw earlier in this video, such as getting your land terraced and tiled, that's mainly for our area, but those are imperative things to gain yield goals. Having a chopping corn head, can help immensely, as I showed there earlier in the video, as to what your planting bed's going to be like. Again, you always got to harvest, so you just utilize your corn head in the best fashion possible to get the most back out of it. If you can do your tillage and your harvest all in one shot, why wouldn't you? All too often I hear on YouTube or other forms of social media such as TikTok, there's a lot of keyboard warrior, or keyboard expert I should say, farmers out there, and they farm their area. I've known farmers that they went as little as 30 miles from home and had their tail between their legs just because of soil structure changes, and even sometimes even maybe 30 miles away can be a different maturity of crop. So I don't think somebody's farming in northern Missouri could go out to Montana and start raising wheat and know what maybe somebody out there has had 50 years of learning and experience. I think a lot of people need to take what they can get from the videos or from other farmers or from agronomists, learn and benefit from them, and forget having this assurity level, this confidence level, which is something I'm seeing all too often throughout the internet and in our fabric of a society in general. Is they don't really, people are very ignorant, but the amount of confidence that they can tell you, and it's amazing how you get cornered or you actually prove facts and they duck and run. On here I talked about the energy markets, and I really didn't get much for comments back on those, and I'm kind of glad, because I think a few of you guys probably took it with an open ears and learned from it. I did get a little bit of blowback though on some other places, and it's just people that they don't know, they don't understand, but they're just bound to determine that that's how it is. And it's fine not to know things in life. It's fine not to understand every single thing in general. It can take somebody years to master one trade, or maybe a lifetime to master a trade, and then somebody comes in 5 minutes time, they know more than you do. I mean, you don't take a renowned heart surgeon who studied hearts his entire life and found several different miracle devices for saving people's lives, then some kid on the internet, and magically in 12 minutes time, never been around it at all, he knows more. And he's very confident about what he knows. Then you ask him a few questions, he can't answer a single one. Therefore, when you watch the videos that I produce, take it with a grain of salt, take it with open ears. It's just how you want to perceive it. You can do what you want with the info, and you don't even have to watch for that fact. Over this next couple of years, I intend to keep working on our farm, keep building it, and keep pushing for the goals that I have set. Despite the daily frustrations, I am currently meeting those goals. The people that do enjoy watching it and tagging along, I appreciate you guys following. Getting to where I've gotten in life has not been an easy journey whatsoever, and I was reminded of that with let's just say a large gut punch here about 2 weeks ago. And I'm not even going to get into it on here right now. I will, when the time is right. I'm going to share it in thorough detail, but I can't for right now. But it kind of goes along the lines to never trust anyone. It ultimately came down to money, which is the root of all evil in our society. It causes people to kill each other. People kill each other over the intrinsic value of a piece of paper. It's an amazing thing. But at the same time, if you don't have any of that paper, it's probably the most lonely feeling in the world, and it can even affect your ability to speak or to even go out there and have free speech, because unfortunately it requires money to have freedoms of speech now. And as everyone knows, we've printed a large amount of that paper money as of recently, which has caused record inflation. Almost everyone is feeling the consequences of these multiple generations of bad leadership in this country. And while everybody's generally unhappy, not very many people understand exactly what's going on. On top of this gut punch, I got sick here as of recent, and I think I know what I have. I'm not going to even say it on here, but not good. But I will recover and be just fine. Keeping the context of this video generic and in general, during our times of COVID, when the country first was shut down, some people were forced to stay home while others were required to go back to work, business as usual. Farmers, truck drivers, many people in this country who, well, the people that basically make the country work, the food, anything to do with your daily life activities is the things you need, such as getting that food on a shelf to allow people to continue living. Those people were deemed essential, and they continued operations as normal, although things were a little bit difficult during that time, especially financially. If you were not deemed essential, then ultimately you were deemed non-essential, although the government chose not to use those words because it would be putting people in a stereotypical category that, how do you tell somebody, well, you're just not worthy or not needed in life? The kicker to all this was being a farmer or a trucker or anybody that was out there working during this was probably at a higher risk of catching anything, and they were having to work, and they were feeling the negative because of the economy collapsing beneath their feet, but they were essential to the survival of everybody else. So you're working during a pandemic at a high risk, but at the same time you're not really getting any payments to take care of that risk. So if a farmer right now during planting season were to get COVID, the last thing you'd want to do is go to a hospital where they can almost trap you like a prison cell, and you'd have to break out and kill 2 guards, which then they'd probably tackle you in hazmat suits and throw you in a salt terror in a jail. And it's that bad. Otherwise, you're not going to get your crop planted, or you'd have to rely upon other people to get your crop planted. That could have serious financial blowback because they're not giving any more money out right now. However, in this last round of funding, they gave the teachers, which have a nationwide average of $65,000, which is absolutely asinine considering they work 9 months a year and they literally do no physical work. I know people that work in tile crews. I know farmers that work their ass off, and a lot of them are lucky to take home $42,500 a year for much. So let's give a big stimulus to teachers who already got their paycheck, who really don't work that hard altogether, and stimulate them from what? The pandemic, where they already received full payment, or to give it to people who already received their payment plus incentive pay. But the essential worker who was out here that took it in the shorts, the farmers got CFAP. That argument's null and void because it actually said right in the CFAP program that they expect farmer to adhere half the loss. Meanwhile, still continuing to work. So as a farmer now, if you're sick and you got this, there's no way you'd want to go to the hospital. You're just going to have to work until you drop because you really don't have a choice, and there's no current funds or anything to help anybody. Meanwhile, everybody's having to pay all this extra money for almost anything you buy because of the inflation caused by giving it to the people that were all deemed non-essential in the first place. So as an essential worker myself, or somebody that was deemed essential, if I have to work while I have certain symptoms and I have to just tough it through, either drop over dead on the job, and I have to do that because of financial responsibilities in what I was, quote, labeled as, then why was somebody who was deemed non-essential entitled to a supplemental paycheck? So in other words, our meek, are useless, and our people that are not worthy to contributing to the daily fabric of society are somehow, and this is the general mentality that I see anyway, they've been deemed to be more valuable, or in a paycheck sense, more valuable than the people that are actually carrying the country. If you're doing the work and you're labeled essential, you get jack shit, and the guy who's completely worthless because he's been deemed non-essential, but he's going to get supplemental paychecks and supplemental income. I mean, what kind of message is that sent? So as an essential worker, if I'm required to work till I drop, and I don't have a choice because there's no financial support for me whatsoever, at that point, and we protected these people that were non-essential, why weren't they able just to tough it through? Hey, you're carrying the country, you tough it through because you're not getting any money, but the guy there at home that was deemed non-essential, you're getting a big extra paycheck, and you don't have to tough anything through. completely the wrong line and opposite thinking that it should have been. And as I've mentioned on here before, getting parts and services out of our local John Deere dealer is just getting next to impossible. And it's not because of John Deere, it's because of the few people, key workers that work in the staff there, and the management's not addressing or taking care of it. I was told on here, and by here I mean YouTube, that you can't expect an owner's mentality out of somebody with a wage. Well, you're right, and I understand the difference between slavery and commitment too. So if you're getting $1 an hour, you feel that it's not worthy to put your time and devotion towards it. But then again, if you don't have that dollar, how do you feed your family? Well, that's because people have kind of adopted an attitude that if I don't want to work there, I don't feel it's any good, I can just go collect the welfare. Somehow I will be taken care of. Well, I don't support slave labor in a sense that pay ought to be based on what it's worth. At the same time, I feel that people need to step up to the plate and actually do their job, or they should be starved to death on the street. That's a fine-edged sword between the two of those things. But again, we protected failure in this country. We saw it with these last bills passed. We're seeing it with unemployment, and it continues to go on and on. And as a business owner, that has some pretty negative implications against us. And in a nutshell, as a whole, I kind of feel like agriculture, now we got some good things coming, and there might be some pretty good years, I'll admit that. But as I feel as a whole, things have gotten to be a bit more of a struggle, just in a general sense. Everybody, even a farmer, needs to buy a pair of sneakers. And if your take-home income hasn't went up, but that pair of sneakers is now 3 times the price of what it was before, that means that maybe you're not going to be able to buy as many of those pairs of sneakers, which ultimately means you kind of have a little bit of a lesser quality of life. And that's kind of what's going on in an aspirational sense in agriculture. So what I'm trying to do is find new and creative ways to benefit our operation going forward. Admittingly, there's much more to this than what I just alluded to. However, I firmly believe that we have protected failureism and non-essentiality in this country way too much. And I also feel like the 30% of the people that are really the people that make America flow are the ones that get used and hosed the most. And a lot of those people that are getting used and hosed the most kind of bring it upon themselves, because a lot of them, and this is doing social media, kind of what I've found out is when I know a subject well and you get that surety level, they really shouldn't have an surety level, because the truth is they just don't know or understand. And that's what causes them to get burnt. Gullibility. Anyway, if you're interested in my videos, follow along. You'll see what I'm going to do different than the competition. I'm willing to learn. I'm open to learn. I want to keep changing and evolving. And I hope you guys tag along for that ride. And if you're on here just to blast rhetoric bullshit in the comments, just see yourself out the door and just don't even watch the videos anymore. And if you're one of the locals that hates me because I put the truth on here and, well, I don't really care because you're just an asshole and I only make $10 an hour and you're a big fucking deal, jerk, blah, 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 blah. Keep going through life with that mentality, because it's obviously got you nowhere so far. And don't even make an attempt to step up to the plate. Just phone it in as minimally as possible. See how it continues going for you. Because I know what direction I'm going in life. Anybody can carve their own roads.